too. I think those bigger games, the games from previous years, the pitch has always been quite an issue for us, because we share with two rugby sides. And there are times we play over Saturday, the Dragons will play over Friday night, and then Newport Rugby Club will play over Sunday. And depending on what the weather was like, if it's been a weekend of torrential rain, the following week, obviously the pitch is going to be quite poor. So we've always been quite good at doing the ugly side of the game, and using the conditions to our advantage, playing the pitch. We obviously utilise the long throw that we have, and it just, I think the close confinements of Rodney Parade as a ground, and the dressing rooms as well. Like the dressing rooms, I don't know how the rugby lads fit in it, because we struggle to fit in with 11, but last night was quite different, because the dressing rooms, because of social distance, and Newcastle were out in the marquee out the back, so there was quite space for them and all of that. But the pitch is quite good at the minute. One of the rugby teams is not there this year, so we've tried to change our style of football this season, because we know that the pitch might hold on for quite a bit longer this year. Because there's no point, deciding at the beginning of the season whether we're going to play a total football, and then come December or come November, when the pitch gets terrible and you're struggling to play on it. Probably the only ones that could play on it at the time were Man City.
Yeah.
They were all right. But yeah, so I think we just up our game for them. The supporters obviously get behind us. It's a free opportunity, and we've nothing to lose. And when you have nothing to lose, you can give everything, and it is good exposure for the players as well, being on TV. But the big thing for us is to try maybe turn that into a week in, week out thing.
Dundalk still 3-1 up. They're into injury time. There's about 4 minutes left. We've got sidetracked, probably talking more actually about the football than we had intended to, because it was to be more about the financial situation at the moment. What's your understanding of it? Are you having a lot of conversations with those in charge of the club as to what not having supporters means in terms of fulfilling contracts, in terms of even fulfilling the season? Because there is always this catastrophic side of it that's put forward by those in charge of English football, that unless money comes in, unless there's financial support from the government or from the Premier League, that the game is going to go under and clubs are going to go under. Are those conversations happening?
Well, we've had conversations with the club throughout the summer, and again, going back to those cup runs have been very, very important to us. The amount of money the club has made over that period of time. Even last year we probably didn't have our best cup run, but we still ended up on TV, I think 3 or 4 times, with getting West Ham early in the League Cup, and then getting to the EFL Trophy semi-final. That was on TV as well. So they have kind of not put us in a good position, but put us in a better position than a lot of teams. I think in the last couple of days there has been a lot of, obviously, conversation amongst the lads themselves. Not worry is the wrong word, but it was just curiosity to see what was going to happen, because you are hearing that with the Premier League giving money and stuff, but I think their minds have kind of not been put at ease in the last couple of days. But I know the government they've said that they're going to give a bailout package to the National League clubs and the conference clubs, so that kind of gives you a little bit more confidence that something might happen with the Premier League as well. And I think it's important. Look, you're not looking for to get money off clubs just to go spend stupidly. You're looking to keep everything the way it is, because if you look at all the players that have come up through the Football League and that are in the Premier League and in the playing for big clubs at the minute, and just Dean Henderson's an example of that. A couple of years ago, he went out on loan to Grimsby. Now he's vying for number 1 spot with David De Gea at United, and is vying for English number 1. So players like that will get lost in the system if there isn't money put towards to help the clubs, because it's disappointing to see what's happened with Macclesfield in the last kind of 2 weeks. They were the first club to kind of go, and now I know there's been issues beforehand. That's not just a COVID issue. This is more of a problem that's been going on a couple of years of mismanagement maybe. But the supporters are the ones who lose out on that.
Yeah. So are you concerned at all? Are you worried about? I know you say you've 18 months left in the contract. Are you worried about what the next few months look like?
I can only go off what's happening with us. Look, we've been tested quite a lot with the whole club. Probably once a week since we've gone back. and we've not had one positive test yet. So we're doing everything right on our side of it, to try and make sure that, you know, we're giving ourselves the best opportunity to, one, keep our families healthy and keep ourselves healthy, and two, keep everyone else's friends and families in the same boat, and we're not passing anything away to you know, in case someone did get it. It's probably something that, you know, you're kind of hopeful that it doesn't get to that stage, and you kind of don't want to go down that road of thinking what will happen. You know, you can only kind of, if you start getting too worried about it that side, maybe it might affect everything else in the football terms. Whereas I suppose you kind of just have to keep going until you hear something, or until something does happen, because if you get too, like I said, if you get too bogged down in it, you know, it might affect you on the pitch, and it might never come to that situation.
Yeah, it's a good positive way of looking at it. Padraig, it's great to talk to you as always. Always good to check in. Hopefully things keep working out well and you start getting a few goals at Newport, and hopefully there's a run in the playoffs this season. We'll check in with you in a few months' time. Cheers,
thanks very much.
Padraig Amond there. You can catch that on the OTB Sports app if you missed it. But let's go to the Aviva Stadium, because Dundalk are in the money and they are in the Europa League group stage. Will O'Callaghan.
They are, Nathan Murphy. They're celebrating in the rain on the Aviva Stadium pitch currently. Dundalk qualifying with a 3-1 victory against KY here behind closed doors at the National Stadium here at Lansdowne Road. Dundalk qualifying, as you mentioned, for the Europa League group stage for the first time since 2016. Sean Murray, Daniel Cleary and Daniel Kelly goals have helped the Lily Whites to overcome the champions of the Faroe Islands. Dundalk made the breakthrough in the 32nd minute. It was a cross from Sean Hoare from deep on the right hand side, flicked forward by Patrick Hubin to pick out a late run into the box from Sean Murray to head them in front. The League of Ireland champions then doubled their lead early in the second half. A goal that the away keeper Christian Johansson will probably have nightmares about. He flapped to the corner when under no pressure whatsoever. The ball eventually smashed home from close range by Daniel Cleary. The visitors though regrouped after that second goal for Dundalk. They got a goal back in the 66th minute when Ole Eric Michigan's shot was deflected by Cleary. The ball just beat the outstretched Gary Rogers. KI then were on top in the game. Patrick Johansson had a decent chance, so did Jakob Andersson, who had the ball cleared off the line by Brian Gartland, but Dundalk sealed the win 11 minutes from time on the break. Eventually substitute Daniel Kelly getting onto the run. He held his line and was just onside, and he slotted home smartly at the near post. Filippo Giovangioli's team are just the third team ever from the League of Ireland to reach the group stages of this competition, and they're set for a financial windfall, as you said, Nathan, in excess of €3 million, a guaranteed 2.9, and then they'll get money for every game they participate in too. They can look forward to tomorrow's draw, which will be at noon in Switzerland, where Celtic, Spurs and Arsenal are among their potential opponents.
Yeah, it's a heck of an achievement for our mate Filippo, who had never managed the senior football team until, a month ago, and is now leading Dundalk into the Europa League group stage. What are you seeing down below you at the empty Aviva Stadium? Well,
Dundalk have destroyed their lily white shirts for a start. They all decided to do a Jurgen Klinsmann style group celebration and slid across the wet pitch here at the Aviva Stadium. Just remarkable scenes. I mean, Shane Keegan, another good friend of Off the Ball, who is effectively their coach on the sideline, because he holds the UEFA licence to be able to manage them here in the Europa League. The Leishman can look forward now to leading them into the Europa League and being on the sideline. Filippo Giovanvoli did come down from the stands quite a bit in the second half. You could see he was quite emotional, particularly when KI got the goal back and it was 2-1 after 66 minutes. But Dundalk's players are just kind of celebrating. It's funny, you have to kind of create your own atmosphere in this stadium when there's no fans here, and despite the fact that there's no fans, they decided to give a show for the cameras, and they're getting inside now. KI, understandably, were very disappointed, and they were throwing their water bottles to the ground. I think it was just that kind of weight of history that was on them, because last year they won their first Faroe Islands title in some 20 seasons. It qualified them for this tournament eventually. They got a walkover against Bratislava in the Champions League, eventually beaten by Young Boys. Then they got that victory against Dinamo Tbilisi, and I'm sure they were feeling, Nathan, that they could dream about getting into the group stages of the Europa League and making a bit of history by being the first team from the Faroe Islands to ever do so. But realistically, with the exception of probably a 20-minute spell, they'll probably be quite disappointed with how they played in the first half.
Yeah, and Dundalk made a bit of history tonight as well. The first Irish team to win 3 knockout games in a single European season. So while I'm sure people will point to the job that Vinnie Perth did last year in leading them to the league title, and that Stephen Kenny did pre that, there was a job to be done for Giovannioli when he came in here to get these players to regroup in what's been a shambolic season off the pitch that has ended up being reflected on the pitch. So this is quite miraculous that they've ended up in this stage.
Yeah, like if we're going to be honest here, Nathan, when they were knocked out in the Champions League qualifiers and they hadn't looked good in the league in a couple of weeks before that, really they hadn't fired since the restart. You thought probably this was a big job to turn it around in a 40-day period to try and win a couple of games in the Europa League qualifiers to get into a playoff and then to win tonight to qualify. I think, whatever about say some very small tactical changes they've made. Mentioned before we started, they've probably switched from a 4-2-3-1 to more of a conventional 4-3-3 just in terms of their approach. But definitely this has been about the getting confidence back into the players. They won their game in the FAI Cup to start, won a couple of league games. You can probably write off the 10 changes from last weekend against Shamrock Rovers. They have got their feeling back, and you look at some of the veteran players who were really important for them tonight, like Brian Gartland, like Gary Rogers. These players have helped them now to qualify for the Europa League again, and I think they've probably, most of them, earned themselves new contracts if Peak Six are looking at the situation. And it'll be interesting to see, because Filippo was saying to us yesterday, Filippo wants to be in charge next season, and given that he's qualified them for the Europa League, which I'm sure when the American owners came into Dundalk, that was the aim, to try and get into European competition with all the financial benefits that are attached to it. It'll be very difficult not to give him the job now.
Here, you go talk to your good friend Filippo. If you can get him before the end of the show, we'll have him on. We'll have him on for a couple of minutes and have a quick chat with him. Just for the Dundalk fans who are listening in, obviously, unfortunately, you're not in all likely going to be able to go to any of these matches, though UEFA have said today they are open to supporters returning if the various different countries will allow it. So who knows what happens over the next few months. But Dundalk will be in pot 4 tomorrow of that draw for the Europa League. Just to give you an example of the other sides that are there, in pot 3 you're going to have Feyenoord and Hoffenheim in there, the likes of Real Sociedad still involved as well, Dinamo Zagreb, Leicester City are going to be in pot 2, and then you have the top seeds, who are the likes of Arsenal, Tottenham, Roma, Napoli, Benfica, Bayer Leverkusen. Celtic may well be in pot 1. You could have Rangers as well. So that's the calibre of opponent that Dundalk can look forward to drawing tomorrow when that is made. But they are through. They have won by 3-1 tonight. We're going to chat a bit more about it with Brian Kerr in just a moment.
Football on Off the Ball
with Paddy Power. New normal, same old football. Paddy Power. Gamble responsibly. See Dunlewy.net.
We all want to play our part in making Ireland a cleaner, greener place to live. So in association with Repack, Newstalk has gone green, and we want you to go green too. We're exploring all of the different ways we can help protect our environment, looking at the best ways of cutting down our waste, sharing tips on recycling, and learning how we can all become more conscious of our consumption. Go green with Newstalk in association with Repack. Follow the movement on air and at newstalk.com/green.
Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. This year has been a lot. Let's start fresh next year. Start the new year early at Skoda's 0% Restart event, where you can choose from our SUV range, the Kamiq, Karoq or Kodiaq, all at 0% finance. Offer available until the 17th of October at your local Skoda dealer. Finance provided by way of hire purchase agreement from Volkswagen Financial Services Ireland and subject to lending criteria. Terms and conditions apply. Visit skoda.ie for further information.
I could share my fears. I could be vulnerable. The Irish Cancer Society nurses helped me right through my breast cancer journey. I'm Sarah, and I'm asking you to support the Irish Cancer Society's breast cancer services this October. Please pick up your pink ribbon in selected Centra stores or give what you can today at cancer.ie. Kindly supported by Centra.
Powerful, portable and durable, MacBook Air and MacBook Pro are ready for any course load. At CompuBee, we like to think we're a bit like the MacBook, because when it comes to helping you get the most out of college, we're always top of the class. And with an incredible 10% off MacBook for students, a free backpack and free CompuBee training and support, our back to college offer is definitely worth studying. When you think Apple, think CompuBee, your local Apple expert. Visit your local store or compubee.com. Terms and conditions apply.
Football on Off the Ball
with Paddy Power. Minimal contact in stadiums shouldn't stop the usual suspects from going down. Gamble responsibly. See Dunlewy.net.
Welcome back to the Football Show. Dundalk through to the group stage of the Europa League. They have beaten KI Klasvik by 3-1 at the Aviva Stadium. 2 second-half goals from Daniel Cleary, crucial as Dundalk get back into the group stage. There's lots of Europa League qualifiers happening tonight. The draw tomorrow at midday. Celtic will be in it. They beat Sarajevo 1-0. Odson Edouard scored a second-half winner for Celtic. Rangers, well, they're just hanging on now at home against Galatasaray. 2-1 up into the final minute of that game at Ibrox. But Spurs comfortably through, 6-2 up against Maccabi Haifa. There's still 15 minutes to go at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Harry Kane with a hat-trick. 2 for Giovanni Lo Celso and 1 for Lucas Moura as well. It's obviously a busy week in the Carabao Cup, another busy week in the Carabao Cup. Still scoreless between Liverpool and Arsenal into the last couple of moments. Stoke 1-0 up against Aston Villa and Brentford 3-0 up against Fulham. Brian Kerr is standing by. Evening, Brian.
Good evening, how are you?
I'm very well. That's a heck of an achievement for Dundalk.
Yes, yeah. Look, it has to be said, Nathan, they got the handy side of the draw all round. If you were to believe in advance that you could get through by beating the team from Andorra, Moldova and the Faroes to get through to the group stages, you'd say that is very unlikely to happen and work out that way. But, it's still an excellent achievement for an Irish team to get through to group stages, and we should all celebrate that. I'd be blunt about it now, Nathan. I wouldn't fancy Dundalk's chances of getting many points in the group based on what I saw tonight.
Yeah, let's hold off on that for a moment, because I think that is the next level. We'll start thinking about tomorrow's draw and actually where are Dundalk really compared to the last 2-3 years to go and acquit themselves to the best of their ability, as you say, in these huge games that are coming down the track. On tonight's game, Kerry Klasvik got themselves back into it in the second half. Were Dundalk a far superior side?
I didn't think they were far superior. I thought it took Dundalk 25 minutes to get going in the match. I thought they made it into a bit of a rough and tumble match, Nathan, in the early first quarter of the game. They failed to get the ball down and play with any real constructive pattern of play. I didn't think Greg Sloggett got in the ball. I thought they got Chris Shields was badly missed, and I didn't see Sean Murray in the match until he scored the headed goal. There wasn't enough of Patrick McElhenney on the ball. The full-backs didn't involve themselves in the play. Now maybe they were having a look at Cowie, as Rita called them when I was in the Faroes, Cowie Clackfield. They were having a look at them, and they were sitting off and waiting. But I thought it took them a long time to start showing a real bit of control and a pattern of play, that they began to look like they were better than the Faroes team. And then they had a spell just leading up to the goal for a couple of minutes where they moved the ball around much better, and they passed it and they shifted it from side to side, and eventually Sean Howard's ball into the box. Patrick Hogan got an excellent header. He did well to hold Eldmar Farrow off, nod the ball down, and Murray got in ahead the goalkeeper, Johansson. The goalkeepers have been the problem in the Faroes. I had contact from someone from Dundalk asked me this week what did I think of Klaksvik, and I said, well, the goalkeeper will be a problem if you put him under pressure, and I was proved right. Their goalkeeper was dreadful, but then Dundalk took a bit of control and they got a hold of it early in the second half to get another. Look, it was a fortunate enough goal. The goalkeeper comes out in a corner and misses his punch, doesn't get to it, and it breaks the clearing, sticks it in the net. Then they sat on the lid, which is fair enough in European football. They sat on it a little bit, but didn't sit on it with any great control. And they got away with a few things. Then they conceded the goal. There's helter-skelter for a few minutes, and Daniel Kelly gets on to McMillan's pass on a counter-attack and took his goal very, very well. But then there's still a lot of helter-skelter stuff near the end of the game. I just didn't think it was a very convincing performance. I thought it was way short of the control that Dundalk showed a few years back when the midfield was Stevie O'Donnell, Robbie Benson and Chris Shields, and Dane Massey and Gannon as the full-back, Darrell Horgan out on the left, Mountney on the right, and Macmillan through the middle. I thought it was much more controlled performances. Maybe we'll see that in the group stages, but I thought it was a patchy performance. They did enough to win the game, but the opposition weren't any great shapes. They were very direct, played off the big man up front, the big Norwegian lad Mitskogen, who played well in the game and gave them a lot of trouble.
As you say, Andorra, Moldova, and then the Faroe Islands, and they sort of scraped through all three of them in the end without being hugely impressive. And Filippo Giovagnoli's come into a difficult situation. There's obviously a lot going on off the pitch in Dundalk, and there was a lot going on it this season as well. They were nowhere near where they've been over the last couple of years. They decide to change manager. He has the connections. He's done nothing wrong, but he finds himself managing a senior team for the first time. Was there anything you saw tonight or over the last couple of European matches that he's doing differently, that a style of play that he's bringing in than is different to what Vinnie Perth was doing for the last 18 months?
Well, I didn't see anything dramatic. I mean, be it that I saw the game in Andorra. I only saw bits and scraps of that, and it looked like that Dundalk had good control in that match. I think Celje, the Slovenian team, were a better quality altogether, and Dundalk, it was the errors at the back that cost them. Gary Rogers and Brian Gartland's mix-up early in the match, or in the first half, caused the first goal, and then late on there were more defensive mix-up, but they were of a slightly better quality, I would have said. I see it dramatically different. No, I can't say I did, but remember, this squad of players was put together, I would say, by League of Ireland standards quite expensively, with the idea that there was pressure on to get through qualifying rounds in the Champions League or group stages in the Europa League. That's why, as I understand it, that's why Peach Six bought into Dundalk. They bought Dundalk in order to, they felt that it would be a lot of income from European football on a regular basis in the group stages. And now they're there, and now they will have that income. And when that income comes, I would be very interested to see, do they invest in the facilities of a stadium in Dundalk or improve that the stadium to some degree? That stadium in Dundalk and Oriel Park is an embarrassment at the moment in terms of, even at League of Ireland level, it's dreadful really. And given that they've been so successful over so many years, the fact that it hasn't improved at all is fairly, I wouldn't say it's scandalous, but it's very poor, Nathan. And really, these people who are in charge of Dundalk now need to take a grip, tell the supporters where they're going, what the future is for the stadium or development of the stadium or something, because those facilities are an embarrassment compared to the stadiums we see around Europe, even in the smaller countries around Europe. Even you see the stadium that the team played in Andorra is actually a better stadium. But so, these are things for Dundalk for the future. Now there'll be money in the bank, or there will be money coming into the bank, and there'll be an opportunity there for them to do it. But the squad that they had, they built a squad that was with the intention of not just, winning the League of Ireland again, which they're obviously not going to now this year, but competing well in Europe. And they've got there by fortunate means, I'd say, to end up getting the Faroes team in the playoff stage. When you look across the fixtures in Europe tonight, I would say they were the two lowest teams in the coefficient. Yeah. And also, and I would also say, Nathan, the quality of the football in the first half of the match matched that. And if that's harsh, I'm prepared to stick with that opinion. I thought it was fairly rough and tumble, I'd say, stuff a lot of the first half until just before the spell when Dundalk scored a goal.
Here, and listen, you're more than entitled to that opinion. It's interesting your comments about the stadium, because a victory like this, you can never just savour it for what it is for Dundalk. It's what does it mean for Irish football? What does it mean for the League of Ireland? And I know in the middle of COVID, when we're talking about money coming into Irish football and questions are asked about where Dundalk spent their money, they would say, well, they've done a lot behind the scenes in terms of gym equipment and treating their players better, and that they haven't been handed a stadium by the council like certain other clubs maybe, is the way Dundalk would look at it. But would you have a concern now that actually they go and spend this? And is that a concern, or actually would that be beneficial for the league as well if they spend a good chunk of this money on players from inside and outside the league and bring the standard up? Or actually is the best thing for the League of Ireland that Dundalk invest this in facilities?
I think they need to get a balance on that. They need to have a plan. They need to decide on an action plan in combination with the council and with Dundalk. I don't see. I see every reason why Dundalk should get a good chunk of money from state resources, from government funds or local authority funds. They brought a lot of joy and a lot of credibility to the town over the last number of years. They played some great football and brought some great nights to anyone in the vicinity, in the general area of Dundalk, who would have loved the football they played and the style they played with. So, I think they're entitled to expect help from the authorities, and not just their own resources, but they've also got to put their own money where their mouth is as well, and not just invest the money in the team and around the team, and doing the gym is okay. The gym is useful for the players, but if you're hoping to have 2 or 3 or 4 or 5,000 people at your matches on a regular basis, you need to provide modern facilities and suitable facilities. The facilities for the away supporters in Dundalk is scandalous. They're standing out in the rain. They're sitting out in the rain up in one corner of the ground with a dearth of facilities. It's not even last century, 2 centuries ago stuff, I'd say. And their own supporters aren't particularly well catered for either. But look, tonight is maybe more, it's about they've achieved something that everyone in Irish football will be happy about, that we'll have an interest in the Europa League group stages for only the 3rd time, that we'll be watching those matches. It's a pity that we won't have supporters into them. It was a big decision for Dundalk to go and play in the Aviva Stadium tonight, and it's a pity that there was no one there to cheer them on and to enjoy that occasion. But that's how it is, and it's probably how it's likely how it's going to be in the group stages too.
Yeah, you'd have to assume that all their home matches will probably be at the Aviva once again, and we went through some of the teams they could play from. Even Feyenoord potentially been a pot 3 team, up to the likes of an Arsenal, Tottenham, Leicester City, Celtic, Rangers, all in that draw tomorrow as well. How they fare then? It's going to be a cramped end to the League of Ireland season, but we think of the last time Dundalk qualified for the Europa League and acquitted themselves so well, and it's one of the main reasons that Stephen Kenny is now the Ireland manager. They beat Maccabi Tel Aviv, they draw with AZ Alkmaar, and they run Zenit very close twice, and in the other 2 games that they lost, they were right there in all of those matches. From what you've seen tonight, and we don't know the draw, you don't sound overly confident that we can get anywhere near to that level again from this current Dundalk?
Well, not the team that put out in the field tonight. I feel the team that played in the field tonight is a long way short of that team I mentioned earlier on when they were at their best, which they showed in those group stages. I mean, I was at all those games, bar the one in Israel, but they had. I think individually and collectively were a better side then. I mean, you look at the position in the league table at the moment, and you mentioned that it'll be a very prompt programme towards the end of the season and the group stages start. I think they showed last weekend against Shamrock Rovers what their interest was in the league. Their interest in the league was that they didn't pick their team to play against Shamrock Rovers in what was a very important game for Shamrock Rovers and some of the other teams in the league in relation to their finishing positions and making the top 4 and so on. I think their ambition now is just to make the top 4 and to probably try to get some points in the group stages and make some money from the points garnered, which maybe that's the right approach. Yeah. But you would like to think that they would be competitive in every game they play in the league also. I mean, in my opinion, the league game in Shamrock Rovers should have been postponed the other night. It shouldn't have been played. The Dogs should have been given the opportunity to rest the players fully for tonight's game. Now, as it happened, they just decided to rest the players anyway by not playing them. But it meant they put out what was more or less the second team against Shamrock Rovers in the league. Now, was that fair to the other sides in the table who are in competition against each other for places near the top and places near the bottom? I didn't think so. But the answer was to call the game off.
Yeah, but you're right. Like, that's not the Dundalk's fault. They have to prioritise tonight's match.
Sure. For sure. No, it wasn't. And I think the game should have been on. But look, it'll be interesting to see how they combine the two, playing the group games and playing the group games in the Europa League and the remaining games in the League of Ireland.
Yeah, Filippo Giovagnoli, their manager, has just been in his press conference saying he wasn't happy with the performance tonight either, but obviously they got the job done. And do we have to take that into account with tonight's performance as well, that this is a huge game still for all of these players, and for once it's a rarity, a game of this importance for an Irish club. They are overwhelming favourites to go and win it, so there was a lot of pressure on the players tonight. Maybe that was a factor as well?
Yeah, I think in the first half there was signs of nervousness. There certainly wasn't a sign of experience and confidence in the first half. There was a lot of misplaced passes and a bit of ginging up the pitch at times. There wasn't a composure that I would have associated with the dog. But I think Chris Shields has a big influence on that. I mean, it might sound slightly odd to say one player should make a big difference, but he has been such a key man for them over the years in terms of that holding position, controlling the tempo of the game, ensuring that there's players around them to pass the ball to and build up the play. And I think that they missed them badly. But, I look at I don't know how far away Sean Gannon, I mean, why he didn't play tonight. Dave Massey had an operation. Obviously, he's not available. I mean, they're such key players in the Dundalk style over the years. But look, at the manager and everyone else around it will just be delighted that they made it and they got through. I'm looking at it in the bigger picture and saying, are they likely to get points in the group stages, against better teams? That, like the Faroes League, there'll be only, I think, maybe two teams lower ranked than the Faroes League in the whole of Europe. KI Klaksvik, it's a remote place in the Faroe Islands. It's, by my reckoning, when I was driving there, it was about 5 islands away, and even to get players to go there from the Tórshavn, they would have had to think about it unless Cowie were paying a lot more than the clubs in Tórshavn, like Habe and B36. So, they beat Dynamo Tbilisi 6-1. We saw how they did it, beat them with a lot of set pieces, balls into the box. And you could see tonight how they could make goals and create goals, but quite limited defensively, and were found out. But look, I'm delighted for Dundalk. I feel sorry for Vinny Kerr tonight that he wasn't involved in it.
Yeah.
I think he was very, very harshly treated. And, some of the suggestions that were being made to him, as I understand it, in advance of some of the games prior to them removing him, were outlandish and ridiculous. And were obviously the opinions of non-football people that hadn't a clue what they were talking about. So they dispensed with him on the basis of a European defeat. And the ball has bounced for them well since then. They've got handy opposition, and they've come through it, and they're in the group stages, and we look forward to seeing the draw tomorrow and Dundalk's big matches in the Europa League group stages.
Yeah, we'll keep a very close eye on that. I can't believe you didn't back up your line you were saying at the weekend that Klaksvik was essentially the Cork of the Faroe Islands, that they fancied themselves a little bit.
No, what I'd say to you was Klaksvik is the fish capital of Europe now. The fish factories in Klaksvik are booming, and it's going really well up there at the moment. And obviously their team won the league last year. They're a few points off Habe, as they're called, HB, at the moment, and they may not win the league again this year. But they were down the second division a few years ago, so they've come back very well. And Mitchell Thomason is a very, very good coach, a good manager, and he got the best out of what he had tonight. They just hadn't got enough. It's a small place. It's a very small group to pick from. Interesting that they had a few foreign players in the squad tonight, but not many of them in the starting team. The big Norwegian, I think that was about Pavlovic, the centre half as well. That was about it.
You've been back to the Faroe Islands lately?
No. Last time I was there was when Trapattoni's team played there.
Okay.
It was last year, yeah.
I'd like
I'd like to go back.
We'd like to go anywhere. We'd like to go anywhere right now, Brian.
Pardon? It won't be going now soon, that's for sure.
No.
You can't go anywhere now.
Jeez.
Stubs can't go anywhere.
Even an old 6 a.m. flight to go to watch Southampton against Burnley or something, we take it on a Sunday morning at this stage.
For sure.
We wouldn't even complain about it. Just a couple of results. Arsenal have beaten Liverpool on penalties in the Carabao Cup in the last couple of minutes. Finished scoreless after 90 minutes. Harry Wilson missed the crucial penalty for Liverpool. Joe Willock put Arsenal through to the draw, which takes place shortly for the quarter-final. Stoke and Brentford also through today. And in the Europa League, so with Dundalk we know through, Celtic beat Sarajevo 1-0. Rangers beat Galatasaray 2-1. And Spurs, 7-2 winners against Maccabi Haifa. 3 of them for Harry Kane, 2 of them for Giovanni Lo Celso, 1 for Lucas Moura, and 1 a penalty kick in the final minute for one Dele Alli, who came off the bench for Tottenham in that one. So they're in that draw as well. Tomorrow, you're going to be doing Spurs on Sunday, Brian, in one of our live match commentaries against Manchester United. We've seen quite a bit of them already in our live commentary games here in Off the Ball so far this season. Is it slowly but surely coming together for Mourinho? They were obviously impressive and should have won well at the weekend until the controversy against Newcastle.
Well, they got, that was a bit of a disaster for them, losing the penalty late on. They should have been out of sight and won the game well. Newcastle were poor on the day, unadventurous, and created nothing until they put Andy Carroll on and bashed a few balls forward. Andy appealed for a couple of penalties before they got the one they eventually got. But, that's the problem when you're only leading 1-0, and we talked about that during the commentary night. And so I think overall, a disappointing start to only have 4 points. Is it coming together for them? I don't know. Again, you look at the team you put out tonight. You put out a very strong team tonight. I'd say nearly his first 11 from what I remember when I had a quick glance at the side during the Dundalk game. It looked like it was nearly his best team. So, that's how seriously he was taking that match to get into the Europa League, because he knows that's the route to the Champions League next year, as other teams have treated it in recent years. Manchester United and Arsenal have had to use that route to have a go to try and get in. So I think the win on Tuesday was important on penalties against Chelsea. That keeps them going it keeps them going in 2 cup competitions. Realistically, in the league, it's hard to see them having enough quality. I think they'll struggle to make the top 4. And I think this is an assurance that he's doing his best in the cup competition, putting out relatively strong teams.
That's a big game on Sunday now. If there's a winner for whichever team loses, it's suddenly a really poor start to the season.
Yeah, for sure, because Manchester United's been very mixed start as well. A lot of criticism. The Crystal Palace defeat was a big downer for them, that they were beaten so convincingly. Yeah, I think they need Manchester United. I think needed even more than Spurs, because the expectancy level is so much higher on them, so much more pressure on Solskjaer. Mourinho will get away with it if Spurs aren't doing as well. He'll talk himself through it. I think, and with no supporters in the ground, he can play whatever way he likes. In fairness to them, they took the game to Newcastle Sunday and played well, and it was good play. And Højbjerg looked like he was finding a bit of form. The combination in general looked well. Bergwijn, when he came out, and Son wasn't as good as Son, but Son and Kane were really in form. Lucas Moura on the right. I'd be doubtful about the midfield. I'd be doubtful about Winks and Højbjerg, that they're the top quality. Matt Doherty has a bit to do as a fullback and as a defensive on the defensive side of his game, and we've just wait and see how Reguilón does when he gets in, if he gets in ahead of Davies. Davies played well at the weekend.
Brian, great stuff as always. We're out of time. Thanks a million for taking the call.
Okay, no problem, Nathan. See you at the weekend. Okay.
Yeah, Brian back on Sunday for that commentary of Manchester United against Spurs. We got Arsenal, Sheffield United from 2 as well. And just a bit of news from the FAI. They say they're going to be talking to the government this week about UEFA's announcement that they will allow supporters back into stadium up to a maximum of 30% capacity. So who knows, maybe for that game against Wales in 10 days' time, there will be a few actually in the stadium. Quick break.
Football on Off the Ball
with Paddy Power. New normal, same old football. Paddy Power. Gamble responsibly. See Dunlewy.net.
We're living in nature. We're going to drop into Yeah, I have. Hang on. I have 3 kids and sorry now, I'm just a little bit upside down here.
Want to talk life insurance while doing yoga in your living room? Now you can. Chat from home, by video or phone with your financial broker or advisor about protecting your family with Irish Life. Get peace of mind knowing they're protected and really strengthen your core at the same time. We know Irish Life. We are Irish Life. Irish Life Assurance PLC is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Into sports.
20 yards out, Ursh to shoot. Duncan! Oh, what a goal from Fabinho! Wow!
Then get into the all-new OTB Sports app.
I think when he apologises to me, I probably will say hello to him, yeah. No.
Videos, sports news, live scores, interviews.
If Fabregas is going to come up to me in the street and give me some of the mouth that he would have given me on a football pitch, what would he do? He get a slap?
Plus, exclusive content on the OTB Podcast Network. The biggest names in sports. Ready when you are. Search OTB Sports on your app store and download it now.
Harvey Norman, celebrating 17 years in Ireland with fantastic prices across our huge range of furniture, bedding and interiors. Shop in our spacious stores or online for big deals like up to 50% off our great range of handmade sofas. Stylish double beds from only $199. Plus, get up to 50% off bed linen and accessories. For fantastic prices across our huge range of furniture, bedding and interiors, Harvey Norman, your appliances, technology, furniture and bedding specialists.
Go!
Football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power. Minimal contact in stadiums shouldn't stop the usual suspects from going down. Gamble responsibly. See Dunlewy.net.
All right, we're almost done for tonight. If you missed any of it, you can listen back on the OTB Sports app. We had John Giles, who was really good at Manchester City. John Small on Ballymun's success and Jeremy Connolly's retirement. I spoke to Padraig Amond about Newport and some really interesting insight into playing against Newcastle last night. And just there, Brian Kerr, maybe with a bit of dose of reality for Dundalk supporters. Not that they really wanted tonight of all nights, as they're through to the group stage of the Europa League with a 3-1 win. But really interesting stuff from Brian. As he said, back with that commentary of United against Spurs on Sunday. Get yourself to otbsports.com right now, because there's a really interesting exclusive just gone up. New York GAA escaping the maximum possible punishment for the scenes of a tightly packed stadium at Gaelic Park over the weekend. Head over to otbsports.com right now. You get the full story there. Tomorrow morning, OTB AM, 7:30, Dundalk Reaction. Jenny Murphy talking rugby. Phil Tomo Thompson and Phil Egan will be breaking down all the Premier League on TV into must watch, might watch and won't watch. Tomorrow night, we're back at 7. Reaction to tonight's game. Lorna Fowler on Friday Night Racing. Tom Dunn's up next. Good luck.
Give him a ball and he out of grass. He'll give you a move for the perfect pass.
Julia Dominguez is an ordinary man with an extraordinary talent. The fastest piano key hitter in the universe.
824 key hits in under 60 seconds.
Bravo, Antonio. Your obsession with speed has led to something extraordinary, and so has ours. Ireland's fastest broadband network has just got even faster. 1 gig broadband from Virgin Media, now available to 97.5% of our network. See virginmedia.ie. Virgin Media. Bring on amazing.
Subject to location and availability. T's and C's apply. Ireland's fastest broadband network based on analysis by Ookla of speed test intelligence data Q1 to Q2 2020. See virginmedia.ie/proof.
The days are getting shorter, and the Tile Style Autumn Sale is now on in our Ballymount showroom, with 40% off almost all tiles, including porcelanosa and florum, 20% off all bathroom and stone, 20% off all wood flooring, including Cars of Sweden. Shop safely at Europe's largest tile, wood and bathroom showroom with exceptional savings while stocks last. The Tile Style Autumn Sale, now on. See tilestyle.ie.